Welcome to Level Up with Winnie Sun.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Welcome back and happy Friday. How are you doing today? I'm so excited. We're going into the weekend. Now, if you're joining us on the replay, a big hello to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's wonderful to have you with us. A big welcome also to my friends at Modern Mom, because we're also streaming to you each and every day so you can keep on top of important and relevant business news. I want to say a big thank you also to my friends at Yahoo Finance who had me on recently to discuss my favorite retirement vehicle, the Roth IRA. I mean, I almost feel like one day we're actually going to see the Roth IRA on back of some car. It'll be like a new tag. Let's start with the market, let you know how the market closed. Actually, today was a very good day. Great way to end the week because the Dow closed up 227 points. The NASDAQ closed up 198 points, just shy of 200. The S&P 500 also up 1 point. Now, the U.S. stock market certainly has been yo-yoing back and forth this week, and especially given yesterday's capital gains news. But then you're probably wondering, so what's been the change of heart? Well, after yesterday's news that President Biden was anticipating increasing capital gains taxes on investors by a lot, especially wealthier investors, investors and analysts have had sort of some time to think about it, and they're expecting that the capital gains increase in tax might actually be muted because, as you know, Congress is still made up of two parties. They're thinking that in order to get that tax pushed through, a majority would need to agree, and they're thinking there's enough disconsent there that perhaps the capital gains tax increase won't go fully up to 100%. They're actually talking about if you, many Americans who earn more than $1 million a year, that your capital gains tax could actually double. We're currently at 20%, that it could actually double to get closer to 40%. So hopefully that doesn't happen. By the way, I want to say a huge welcome and hello to all my friends here. I see Alina here. I see Tim here. I see the one and only Brian Schumann here. I see so many of you. I see Joshua here. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Now let's talk about Mars. Do you feel like that might be your new neighborhood? Because Elon Musk thinks so. In fact, Elon Musk said today that he wants to make sure that SpaceX is not only able to reach Mars, that humanity, all of us, aren't just a single planet species. So Elon Musk is saying Mars is going to be the next big thing. In fact, he remains focused on his vision for SpaceX. He definitely wants to make Mars sort of our second permanent planet. And he says he definitely doesn't want to see humans only on a single planet, that we should be a multi-planet species. And so we'll see what happens, right? You're seeing right here, obviously SpaceX has those incredible Falcon 9 rockets, and they have these Crew Dragon capsules, which are really cool. This is kind of moving into my friend Greg Nibbler's space on his show. But, we'll see. We'll see how this turns out. But most importantly, I'm curious to see, how do you feel about this? Alina, do you want to? I'm thinking Alina doesn't want to move to Mars, but I mean, maybe Tim does. How many of you would be up for moving to a brand new planet? Hasn't been developed yet. It's almost like back in the day, right? When settlers moved into the colonies to the United States, and sort of building from scratch. We'll see. We'll see how that turns out. So that's going to be the big thing that Elon Musk is working on. On other news, let's talk about vaccines, right? The CDC actually just recommended that the United States resume its use of Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccines. They're saying that, in fact, we got to push those through. There's still a lot of Americans that need to be vaccinated, and certainly their one-shot regimen is still going to be very beneficial to a lot of people as we deal with this pandemic. In fact, the CDC advisory panel is also recommending that there be sort of warning labels on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. In particular, they're proposing that the FDA include a warning label for women under the age of 50. So if you're a woman under the age of 50, definitely take a closer look at the Johnson & Johnson vaccine if that's the one that you're interested in getting. They're actually saying the recommendation is going to be paving way for U.S. regulators to lift their recommended pause that we've had on the Johnson & Johnson shot as early as this weekend. Actually could get pulled, and maybe those of you who have been waiting for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, you might be looking at it something as an availability next week. Now, on other matters, for those of you who are also looking towards getting back to normal, you might be thinking, okay, I've got my vaccine, work is back to normal. What's the next big thing? Well, for a lot of Americans, it's travel. We've seen that already. There's been a tremendous uptick in terms of travel. In fact, I want to tell you, I got an email last week that says people who were residing in Florida could fly to Japan, Tokyo, Japan, round trip for like $200. So a lot of travel deals out there, but where will you go? Now, the U.S. State Department this week actually updated its international travel guidance. This is really big because they want to make sure that this reflects science-based recommendations that are coming out of the CDC. So now they're actually giving 80% of the world's countries its highest and most severe, most strict travel advisory level classification. In fact, 153 countries worldwide are now going to carry the level 4 notification of do not travel, don't go there. And 40 are going to be considered level 3, which is you might want to reconsider your travel. 15 is level 2. Exercise, increase caution, but only one country reigns supreme, and that's Bhutan, which is currently considered a level 1 exercise normal precaution. So sounds like, if you're looking for some international travel, maybe Bhutan is the place that you should be considering. Now, it's Friday, which is always a fun day here because Fridays are Ask Winnie Anything. And you all did not disappoint. You sent in some great questions. I'm excited to get started with that. Let's go and start with the first question. Let's see what we have. Okay, it says I'm in my 30s now. How much do I need to have saved up to be okay for retirement? What about when I'm in my 60s? I don't want to be stressing when I'm in my 80s. Laugh out loud. Oh, Bert, great question. In fact, I got to say, this is probably a question I get asked so many times behind closed doors with clients and meetings like that. But sometimes you might think, oh, that's a silly question. I don't want to ask it on the air. So this is what's great about you submitting your questions. For those of you watching, if you have business related, personal finance related, anything related, actually, questions that you have for me, just jump into one of my direct messages, on Twitter. My direct message is always open. Submit those questions, and who knows, your question might be on our show in a couple weeks from now. Okay. So here's the answer I'll tell you. So a recent study actually came out showing that about a quarter of Americans are actually not saving enough for retirement. Now, this is probably not news to you, but they're under saving for retirement by considerable amounts. In fact, 1 out of 4 Americans have no retirement savings, and those who are saving, many of you probably are saving, and unfortunately, many who are saving aren't quite saving enough. But then the thing is, how do you know if there's enough or not? Well, there was recently a survey and a study that showed these are some guidelines on how you can increase your savings goals. How much should you save? What would be enough? Well, by the age of 30, which was your question, you should have saved, they say, in retirement, the equivalent to your annual salary. So if your annual salary is $45,000, then by the age of 30, you should have $45,000 ideally saved up in your retirement account. Now, your retirement account can be your 401k, 403b, 457, combined with maybe a SEP IRA or traditional IRA or Roth IRA. But in conjunction, in total, they're saying by age 30, you want to have at least an equivalent to 1 year of salary. Then when we go to age 40, we're talking about 3 times your salary. And you asked about age 60. By age 60, you want to have 8 times your salary. And by age 67, they're saying ideally you want to have 10 times your salary saved. So for those of you who are way before age 67, I don't want you to stress. I just want you to put on the gas a little bit, try to save a little bit more towards your savings towards retirement. And that, equates to spending less. Spending less can help you oftentimes save a little bit more. Definitely not something that all of us can do. And definitely, I'm not suggesting this is an easy thing to do, but just I want to make sure that you have these numbers in mind so that when you have an opportunity to look at maybe side work or when you get your bonus from work, if you do get one, think about putting a little bit more aside for yourself. because this is towards your retirement. Okay, so great question. Thanks so much for asking. I hope that was helpful. Let's go to the next question. All right, this is one we're getting a lot of this week, and that is what's going on with the market. One day it's up big, the other day it's down big. What's going on? Well, it's kind of like the yo-yo effect, right? This week has been a total yo-yo effect. I mean, the beginning of the week, it dropped quite a bit. The middle of the week kind of was negative too. And then like today, we ended up positive quite a bit. Well, let me tell you something. In addition to what we're seeing on the positive side, which is positive corporate earnings, we're also seeing less Americans filing for unemployment. That's always a positive as well. Economies are beginning to open back up. Vaccines, a lot of Americans continue to get vaccinated. So certain states, especially here in California, for example, we're seeing caseloads of COVID definitely decreasing. Those are our positives. But what you're also seeing are negatives, right? We're seeing in different countries across the world, that are still suffering majorly from COVID, unlike here in the United States. Now, certain pockets of the United States, we're still struggling quite a bit. But compared to information that's coming out of India, for example, right? Other countries, they're struggling. Caseloads are increasing. We're seeing increase in variance. That's what's actually concerning, as well as things like the increasing of capital gains tax. So you're going to see more of this. I expect that you're going to see more volatility for the rest of this year as well. But do know some of that is trickling in, as well as investors will naturally, when they get nervous and they feel instability, you're going to see weakness in the market and vice versa as well. So most importantly, if your time horizon is long, if you're staying diversified, you're getting good advice, then, you just want to make sure to stay the course. All right. Great question. Thank you so much for asking that. Let's go to the next one. All right, this is a great question, and that is, Winnie, what age do you think is the best age to get my kids a credit card? I know you've talked about building up that credit history. What's so interesting that you asked this question, because you may have seen this week, Apple came out with new iPads, new technology, their new M1 chip, but they also talked about their new credit card, right? And they're saying one of the things that they wanted to change was to make sure that multiple people on one credit card would develop credit history. Well, here's the thing that you may not know is that a lot of credit card companies now already allow you to add your children onto your credit cards. Now, there are certain companies that do require your child to be at least 13 years old or older to be an authorized user on your credit card, but there's others that actually don't have an age minimum. So, for example, my kids are age 7, 9, and 12, and actually I'm planning to get each of them a credit card soon. Now, how you would want to do this is obviously, if they qualify, make sure they're authorized users on the account. You can set limits on their account. But another really important thing, especially when you're thinking about building credit history, is make sure that these cards are actually getting used and not just, you put a name, you get them a credit card, and you leave it in the closet. What you want to do instead is put periodic small charges on them and then make sure that they're being paid off. So you could let your child, spend a portion of the money that they've earned or saved or whatnot, and they can buy something. Let's say they bought, a box of toys on Amazon or something, but make sure that gets paid off in a timely fashion, and make sure there's usage, right? Don't need to go crazy about it, but this is a great opportunity for you to talk to your kids about building credit. Talk to them about being responsible with their money, their savings, their spending, as well as the importance of, how to handle a credit card, how to keep it safe, how to keep the data safe. And then from there, it's a great learning lesson. So I love this question. I thank you for asking that. If any of you have any additional questions pertaining to that, definitely send me a message, send it to direct message, and I'll make sure to get back to you as well. All right. Next question. Let's see what we got. I think this is our last question, actually. Okay, it says, help. My husband is an aggressive investor and is constantly trading on stuff he reads online. I would rather keep to something a bit more diversified and long-term. How do we come together financially as a couple? Now, great question. I actually have been asked this a couple of times this month, I will tell you. One person I spoke with, the spouse was following things on Reddit, was doing a lot of day trading. And the other one was a little bit more not as involved in this and really wanted just to put together a plan, wanted to accomplish things like paying for a child's education, those bigger financial goals, rather than sort of what she described as playing the market. So I'll say this, when you come together as a couple, it sort of has to be where you both give a little bit and you both gain a little bit. So it's a win-win for both of you. And, I got this question just recently from another reporter asking me how I felt about this. And I will tell you this. I know you might think that I would say, well, you just need to get your spouse to like stop day trading and stop reading stuff online. I actually disagree with that. I actually think it is important that if you have an interest in this, that you get a chance to learn about it and read about it. And certainly investing for yourself is a great way to learn how to invest. However, that being said, I think a good way to build into this relationship is to sort of have priorities. Have your long-term diversified financial goals being your serious goals. So make those your couple goals. Like, when do we want to retire? Like, how are we going to pay for retirement? How are we going to pay for the kids' education? How are we going to pay for that like next awesome vacation that we want to take post-pandemic together? Make those your goals, label those goals, give your money a name. Label those categories. And then the other side of, like you said, your husband likes to do more aggressive investing, make that the play money. That could be seen as your Las Vegas money. That should be a smaller amount that you understand that there's tremendously more risk and there's a potential for loss, right? And only invest what you're comfortable potentially losing. And then have conversations about this, because what I think is key here is not to say not to do this, because a lot of people are doing this, right? But to say, how can we have a couple plan or family financial plan so that both your needs, both your interests come together so that it's a win-win? Because what I found too is, long time ago, I used to really, really like to read things in the financial markets. I love reading it now, but like this is before I became a financial professional. I would read things, I would trade based on the things that I read. And I would tell you some of the best financial information I learned the terms, I learned how to trade, and I learned what I liked and most importantly, I learned what my weaknesses and shortfalls were. And I think that's important. Obviously, now I do this for a living, so it's very different. But I've also worked with a lot of clients who used to trade a lot and then realized that they enjoyed other things instead, like their profession or hobbies or whatnot. And they then decided it was time to find a professional to come in to help better manage, put together a plan for their finances and their family's finances. So don't give up hope. Don't make it an all or none thing, but come together. And this is a good chance to welcome conversation into your relationship on financial matters. So I hope that's helpful. If you have anything else on that, definitely reach out to me. I would love to help you further. And most important, thank you all for tuning in. Happy Friday to you. Thank you so much for watching and supporting our program. Please take a moment, if you could, to share this show with those that you care about. And as a reminder, you can find full episodes of Level Up with Winnie Sun on NASDAQ, Amazon Fire, and Roku. So be well. I can't wait to see you again next week. Take care. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye now.